That last chapter ended in the most bloodiest thing I've ever read, okay, about this man. It sounded like he was pulling out his own intestines. He was definitely bleeding. Here's the final chapter. This is 2 Maccabbees 15. When Nicanor heard that Judas and his men were in the region of Samaria, he made plans to attack them with complete safety on the day of rest, when the Jews, who were compelled to follow him, said, "Do not destroy so savagely and barbarously, but show respect for the day which he who sees all things has honored and hallowed above all other days." The thrice accursed wretch asked if there were a sovereign in heaven who had commanded the keeping of the Sabbath day, and when they declared, "It is the living Lord himself, the sovereign in heaven, who ordered us to observe the seventh day," he replied, "I am a sovereign also and on earth, and I command you to take up arms and finish the king's business." Nevertheless, he did not succeed in carrying out his abominable design. This Nicanor, in his utter boastfulness and arrogance, had determined to erect a public monument of victory over Judas and his men, but Maccabeus did not cease to trust with all confidence that he would get help from the Lord, and he exhorted his men not to fear the attack of the Gentiles, but to keep in mind the former times when he had come to them from heaven, and now to look for the victory which the Almighty would give them, encouraging them from the law and the prophets, and reminding them also of the struggles that they had won. He made them more eager, and when they had roused their courage, he gave out his orders, and at the same time pointing out to perfidy of the Gentiles of their violation of oaths, he armed each of them not so much with confidence in shields and spears as with the inspiration of brave words. And he cheered them all by relating a dream, sort of a vision, which was worthy of belief. What he saw was this: Onias, who had been the high priest, a noble and a good man, modest bearing, gentle manner, one who spoke fittingly, had been trained from childhood in all that belongs to excellence, was praying with outstretched hands for the whole body of the Jews. Then likewise a man appeared, distinguished by his gray hair and dignity, and of marvelous majesty and authority. And Onias spoke, saying, "This is a man who loves the brethren, and prays much for the people in the holy city." Jeremiah, the prophet of God, Jeremiah stretched out his right hand and gave to Judas a golden sword. As he gave it, he addressed him thus: "Take this holy sword, a gift from God, with which you will strike down your adversaries." Encouraged by the words of Judas, so noble and so effective in arousing valor and awakening manliness in the souls of the young men, they determined not to carry out a campaign, but to attack bravely and to decide on the matter by fighting hand to hand with all courage, because the city and the sanctuary and the temple were in danger. Their concerns for wives and children, and also for the brethren and relatives, lay upon them less heavily. Their greatest and first fear was for the consecrated sanctuary, and those who had remained in the city were in no little distress, being anxious over the encounter in the open country. When all were now looking forward to the coming decision, and the enemy was already close at hand with their army drawn for battle, the elephants strategically stationed, the cavalry deployed to the flanks, Maccabeus, perceiving the hosts that were before him, and the varied supply of the arms and savagery in the elephants, stretched out his hands towards the heaven, and called upon the Lord, who works wonders, for he knew that it is not by arms, but as the Lord decides, that he gains the victory for those who deserve it. And he called upon him in these words: "O Lord, thou did send thy angel in the time of Hezekiah, the king of Judah, and he slew fully 185,000 in the camp of Sennacherib. So now, O sovereign of the heavens, send a good angel to carry terror and trembling before us. By the might of thy arm, may these blasphemers who come against thy holy people be struck down." And with these words he ended his prayer. Nicanor and his men advanced with trumpets and battle songs, and Judas and his men met the enemy in battle with invocation to God and prayers, fighting with their hands, praying to God in their hearts. They laid low no less than 35,000 men, were greatly gladdened by God's manifestation. When the action was over and they were returning with joy, they recognized Nicanor lying dead, in full armor, and there was shouting and tumult. They blessed the sovereign Lord in the language of their fathers, and the man who was ever, in body and soul, the defender of his fellow citizens, the man who maintained his youthful goodwill towards his countrymen, ordered them to cut Nicanor's head and arm and carry them to Jerusalem. When he arrived there and had called his countrymen together, stationed the priests before the altar, he sent for those who were in the citadel. He showed them the vile Nicanor's head and that profane man's arm which he had so boastfully stretched out against the holy house of the Almighty. And he cut out the tongue of the ungodly Nicanor, and said that he would give it to piecemeal to the birds, and hang up these rewards of his folly opposite the sanctuary. And they all, looking to heaven, blessed the Lord, who had manifested himself, saying, Blessed is he who has kept his own place undefiled. And he hung Nicanor's head from the citadel, clear and conspicuous sign to every one of the help of the Lord. And they all decreed by a public vote never to let this day go unobserved, but to celebrate the 13th day of the 12th month, which is called Adar in the Syrian language. It's the day before Mordecai's day. This, then, is how matters turned out with Nicanor. And from that time, the city has been in the possession of the Hebrews. So I will here end my story. If it is well told, to the point, that is what I myself desired. If it's poorly undone and mediocre, that was the best I could do. For just as it is harmful to drink wine alone, or again to drink water alone, while wine mixed with water is sweet and delicious, and enhances one's enjoyment, so also the style of the story delights the ears of those who read the work. And here will be the end.